Killmonger, in an effort to stop Thanos, has failed. Thanos has gotten what he wanted and erased half of all existence. In space, Tony Stark and Nebula travel through the stars in an effort to return back to Earth to save Tony from his wounds. Tony prepares one final message for his love Pepper Potts and drifts away into sleep until a bright light overcomes him. On Earth, he meets back up with his fellow Avengers to only find himself with a level of resentment once again for Steve Rogers. As Tony gets rest, Killmonger would be in the room alongside Thor, who would both be submerged in their own anger and guilt. Thor had the power to save the universe, while Killmonger was given a second chance to live from his cousin, but now he's gone. The Avengers would soon enough find where Thanos was located, with Carol Danvers simply saying that she will deal with Thanos as if Thanos was an easy battle, and this would anger Rhodey and infuriate Killmonger. Carol would remark, saying that there are thousands of planets that need her help, but Killmonger cuts her off, saying that with that power, she can't even focus on her own home. Carol would snap back to Killmonger, saying that last she checked, Killmonger wasn't able to stop Thanos while he was here. This would outrage Killmonger, who would step up to Carol and tell her that if she thinks that she could take out Thanos by herself, then she better think twice. Carol's hands then begin to glow as Killmonger balls his fist up in a stare down. Both of their eyes are locked onto each other's, waiting for one to make a move, but before Killmonger could do anything, Stormbreaker is summoned by Thor, which splits the two apart. Thor would then say that the fight against Thanos isn't over, and that it isn't only just hers. Carol would look towards the group, who would all share the same determination as Thor's and Killmonger's, and she would nod and tell them, "Alright, let's get to it then." The Avengers settle into the Guardian ship, where Steve looks upon an old picture of Peggy Carter, his love. His thoughts are then interrupted as Black Widow checks up on him. After Natasha asks about their mission, she shifts her focus over to Killmonger. Steve would then change his seat to be alongside Erik. Erik would look over to Cap and chuckle. "Star-spangled man with a plan. How'd that work out for you?" Steve would stay quiet as he would see Killmonger holding his abdomen. "Why did he save me?" Steve would look back to Erik as he would think of Bucky. My friend Bucky. His mind was twisted by Hydra, and he was turned into a machine for bloodshed. I thought I had lost him during World War II, but when I saw that he was back, I knew I'd do anything in my power to bring my friend back. I'm sure T'Challa felt the same way for you. Steve would then take his original seat as Erik would bring his head up from this. Rocket would then tell the group to hold on tight, and soon enough the team would be soaring through the stars and planets. Killmonger would be astonished to see all the stars, but soon enough his focus would return, as the group would have arrived to Thanos' world. Carol scouts the planet and would report back to the group that Thanos is alone. Thanos would be walking through a field where he would be picking up ingredients for his stew. He would walk up steps to his home, but his attention would be averted as the Avengers would surround him. Everyone would pin Thanos down, with Killmonger jumping out of the shadows and slashing Thanos' eyes out. Thor would burst through the door and chop Thanos' arm off, and Rocket would come to find that the Infinity Stones are gone. Steve would demand to know where the stones are, with Thanos groaning in pain as he would explain that the Infinity Stones are gone. Killmonger would be in disbelief, and he would ignore the truth and begin to slash at Thanos, demanding Thanos to cut the shit already, but Nebula stops him. Nebula then expresses that her father isn't a liar, with Thanos showing gratitude for her faith, but this all ended as Thor decapitates Thanos. The group is horrified by the bloody scene, and they retreat from the planet, with all hope of bringing everyone back gone. "5 years later, the world is plunged into a period of darkness and depression. Families all across the planet have been mourning the loss of their loved ones. Some result of violence, counseling, or solitude. In the high mountains of Oakland, California, Killmonger wakes up to find a woman in his bed and sighs as he looks across the window to see the dead sky. He would then avert his gaze to his wardrobe, where he finds his Black Panther suit and would just stare at it. Erik would then get up from bed and close the wardrobe. A car then drives off from Killmonger's home as Erik watches it drive off. Erik would then look towards his cabin and begin to do his morning chores: sweep the dust, tend to his garden, clean his clothes, eat breakfast. Killmonger walks into his living room, where he flips on the news to see the same reoccurring news of how things are only getting worse. He then turns off the TV and walks back outside, where he would check out the nature and watch as the wind breezed through the grass. My answer stays the same. Okoye then walks out from inside Erik's home. I know, but it's a part of my orders to continue trying. If the elders want me to come back to Wakanda to see if I'm worthy, they'll be disappointed. Okoye then walks over and rests on the wall. So what will you do? Continue to sit around, invite prostitutes to your home, and try to avoid who you can be? I was given a second chance already. There's no reason for me to continue what I failed. Okoye then prepares to leave, but stops herself. Before half the population was snapped away, I too went through the hole I thought I couldn't escape. Don't allow yourself to fall apart. The more you do, the harder it will be to get back together. Killmonger continues to stare off into the distance as Okoye leaves a Kimoyo bead for Killmonger to hold on to. Okoye then leaves in her spacecraft and bursts off. Erik then walks back inside to his cabin and into his room, where he opens up his wardrobe once again to see his uniform. He slowly moves his hand closer to the suit, and once he touches it, he gets a flash of memories hit him. His father's death, T'Challa's defeat by his hands, T'Challa's return, T'Challa's mercy, T'Challa's side, and soon enough, T'Challa's end. He then pulls his hand back from the suit and closes his wardrobe. As Erik falls into a deep sleep, he has another flashback. T'Challa and Erik are going back to back in an argument in his village in Wakanda. Erik argues about how the world will strike against Wakanda one day, but T'Challa defends his side by saying that the world is changing and that Wakanda can help heal it for the better. The two just look at each other long and hard, with T'Challa finishing that, just like the world, there's still time for his cousin to grow alongside it. The sunrise then awakens Erik from this. Erik then walks over to a dusty drawer, where he opens it and finds pictures of his family. Erik sees a photo of T'Challa with his father at the UN before T'Chaka's death. Erik then breathes in deeply and gets up as he walks toward his door with the Kimoyo bead in hand, but before he sends a message to the Wakandans, a knock at the door is heard. Erik then goes to open it, where he finds Steve Rogers, Natasha Romanoff, and Scott Lang. Erik looks confused towards the three, with Scott saying, "We can bring everyone back. Will you help us?" The Avengers then meet together at Avengers HQ, where Erik meets the other Avengers after many years, and they explain their time heist plan. Tony and Bruce show Erik a variation of the Panther suit, with Erik looking it up and down, with Tony remarking that, hey, it's not for Fashion Week. Erik would then smirk and say that he'll stick with the original. The team then go to brainstorming, where they discuss that they will have one round trip with the Pym particles. Quill said he stole the Power Stone from Morag. Is that a person? Morag's a planet. Quill was a person. I still can't believe a raccoon is telling us how to save the universe. Scott would then spit out his noodles and laugh alongside Erik. Rocket looks over annoyed, with Erik saying, "Continue." The Avengers then line up together, with Steve as they relay the mission. 6 stones, 3 teams, 1 shot. They would all then walk up to the quantum teleportation device, with Natasha at the top telling them all, "See you in a minute." The Avengers then shoot down straight into the past. Killmonger would then arrive to Asgard with Rocket and Thor, where they would go to retrieve the Reality Stone from Jane Foster. Erik and Rocket would be stealthily maneuvering around crowded areas to make sure that they aren't seen by guards, with Thor trying to keep up but making clumsy moves. That's the God of Thunder? It's the one we gotta work with. They continue to where Jane is located, but Thor would see his mother and begin to panic. Erik would then have enough of Thor's charade and snap at him. Who are you supposed to be? The God of Thunder? Kid, relax. No, this is bullshit. We're all putting our lives on the line while this fat ass is on his ass while he could be helping us. I say we get rid of him. Erik then shoves Thor to the ground, where Thor would hit his head hard and a large crack would be on the floor. Thor would then rise up with an angered expression as his eyes would begin to light up. What did you call me? Killmonger then walks up to Thor, undisturbed, and looks him in the eyes and says, even after this shit is done and resolved, the only one you'll be caring about is yourself. At least I am fighting for my nation, my home, my family. These past 5 years haven't been easy for me either. I've been having to push forward, but I didn't decide to get drunk and become a 15-year-old who likes to play Fortnite all day. You're not a god of thunder. You're not a god of anything. This sets Thor off, and Thor fires a lightning blast straight at Erik, which throws Killmonger into a wall, and Killmonger falls through the ground. Killmonger would then wake up, where he would look up to see many cages around him, but someone would call out to him. Erik would then look up to see the god of mischief, Loki. Well, you're not from around here. I thought the Doctor would be the only Midgardian to come to Asgard, but apparently we let anyone in now. I wonder if Heimdall saw this one coming. Erik would then come to his feet, where he would try to walk away, but Loki would speak up. You're after something, aren't you? Erik then looks back to Loki. So what? Whenever mortals are desperate for something, they come crawling to us for begs, for mercy, for glory. Which one are you after? Erik stays silent as he walks up to Loki's window with an angered expression. I'm only here to repay a debt. Don't act like you know me. Loki then begins to laugh at Erik, with Loki saying that he is a fool if he believes to be better than an average mortal. Mortals like himself beg for mercy on others, but in reality, it's vengeance they're after. Erik opens up his eyes, with Erik showing that he's listening, and Loki continues. We may be very similar. You're after vengeance to get something you've lost. I'm doing the same. I'm going to find my way back to my throne one way or another, but a little help couldn't hurt. So you want to be freed from your prison, so you can go back to my planet just to throw it into ruin? No, I'm not going to fall back into that man, that monster. For the sake of the ones that are calling for me, I need to move on, and so do you. Erik then walks off, away from Loki, with Loki being angered, and Loki yells out that no one can reject vengeance. It will always come back for them. Erik would continue walking as Loki would watch in curiosity. Killmonger would find his way back to Rocket, where he would ask if he got it, with Rocket showing Erik the stone. Erik would be relieved and would go over to his side, where he would see Thor back with his hammer, with Thor stating, I'm still worthy. Erik would smirk, and the three head back to the present. Back in the present, the team would be ecstatic to learn that they have gotten all the stones, but would all fall silent as Clint would fall to the ground. Everyone would then feel a sense of sorrow for Natasha, as Bruce would ask, Where's Nat? The Avengers would mourn Natasha's death, but honor her sacrifice by finishing the mission. The team then head back to the lab, where the gauntlet would be, with Bruce deciding to bring everyone back, with Thor agreeing, saying that his body is in no shape to take on that power. Tony would then remark, saying that, wow, humility from the God of Thunder. That's a new one for me. Tony would then initiate a lockdown on Avengers HQ, where then everyone would form a guard around themselves. Bruce would then grab the gauntlet and place it onto his hand. The nanobots would begin to surround Bruce's hand, and soon enough, A jolt of power of infinity courses through Bruce's body, and Bruce is brought to his knees. Tony would shout for his friend to be responsive, with Bruce showing signs of life. Bruce then desperately begins to bring his arm up. With all the might he has left in his arm, he snaps. Bruce immediately falls to the ground, where Tony runs up to him and uses a healing spray. The defenses of Avengers HQ then set away, as everyone waits in anticipation, until a ringtone comes from Clint's phone. Erik would then pull out his Killmonger bead and ask for the life signatures of Wakanda, with the AI showing that the population has increased by the amount of people snapped away. Erik would then look into a messages column, where he would be getting a message from T'Challa. Erik hesitates to pick it up, as a large shadow overtakes Avengers HQ, and Avengers HQ then begins to crumble in on itself, with all the heroes falling through the ground of the rubble. Killmonger would open his eyes to see a blurry image, which would look like T'Challa reaching out to him. He would look confused, but would then blink once again, and see Steve reaching out for him, telling him to get onto his feet. Erik would grab Steve's hand, with Erik asking what happened, and Tony would say that they must have messed with time too much. They would all walk over to see Thor staring at Thanos. "We good?" Erik would ask. Thor would only be concentrated on Thanos and would say nothing back. Thor would tell the group that it may be a trap, but Tony would say that he doesn't really much care. Thor would then reach out both of his arms and summon both Mjolnir and Stormbreaker, and looks over to Erik saying, "Let's kill him properly this time." The four would then walk through the rubble and slowly surround Thanos, with Thanos seeing the four. "You could not live with your own failure. Where did that bring you?" "Back to me." Thanos would then say that he believed eliminating half of life would help, but their actions have shown otherwise. "Yeah, nah, we don't work like that." Thanos would then say that he's thankful, because now he understands what he must truly do: tear the universe down and create one with the stones they have gathered. A grateful universe that would know the heroes that were slaughtered to create it. The four would then charge in, with Erik pouncing forward to slash Thanos in the back, but would be kicked away as Tony is swatted away and begins to fire out his beams. Killmonger would jump out of the rubble to see Thor throwing Mjolnir, and would grab onto it, propelling himself to Thanos, where he would then slash at his armor, but the armor would take it, and Thanos would grab Erik and squeeze his throat, with Erik desperately trying to push off of Thanos, but then Tony would blast at Thanos' back, and Thanos would use Erik as a shield. Tony would then hesitate, and Thanos would throw Erik straight at Tony, knocking the two down. Erik would grunt in pain from this, and Tony saying, "Sorry kid," but Erik would tell Tony to hit him again. Tony would then look at Killmonger's suit glow, and would understand what Killmonger meant. As Killmonger would go to attack Thanos, he would take a hit from him and Tony repeatedly. Erik's suit would light up, and he would yell to Tony, "Now!" And Tony would grab him and throw him towards Thanos, with Thanos preparing to chop Killmonger in half, until Cap comes in and kicks Thanos' sword away. Thanos then looks over to see Cap with his sword, and then looks up to see Killmonger, and Erik strikes Thanos across his face, setting off a huge kinetic wave that pushes the two back. Thanos grunts as he is sent through many pillars of debris, and then falls to the ground. Thanos would then look up to see Thor coming down with Stormbreaker, and would roll to the side and dodge Thor's attack. Thanos would then be hit in the back by Cap's shield, but as it bounces around many walls, he grabs it midair and throws it straight at Cap, which Cap is barely able to catch it, but it sends him away. Thanos would then begin to pound Thor's face in, with Thor trying to summon Stormbreaker, but Thanos catches it and begins to press it into Thor's chest. Mjolnir would then begin to rise up, as Steve Rogers would possess it and hammer it down on Thanos. Erik would come in from the top and slash at Thanos' face, leaving a slash mark of blood, with Thanos getting infuriated by this and grabs Erik's smirking face and gut punches him straight to Cap, who would then drop Mjolnir. Thanos would then pick up his blade and begin to throw all his force into each attack, with those attacks beginning to break Cap's shield. Cap looks surprised, but Thanos would be relentless in his attacks, and soon enough, he punts Cap away, with Steve not having any energy to get up with a broken arm. Erik would see Steve in front of him and tries to nudge him awake. Do you now understand? All that violence and all that vengeance comes out to nothing when being fueled by only that. Erik would grunt as he would get back on his feet and look towards Thanos. He would have the same feeling of defeat as he once did when fighting with T'Challa, but instead of cowering into it, he retracts his claws as a sign that he is not done yet. Your fight is commendable, as well as your intent to kill. Your skills, strength, and composure would put fear into the galaxy's mightiest forces. You aren't like your adversaries. You're more. Erik grows an angered look and shakes his head, telling Thanos that, all my life, people have been trying to oppress me. All my life, people have been trying to understand me. But I'm not who you think I am. I'm not good. I'm not bad. I'm Prince N'Jaka, son of Prince N'Jobu. I'm a Wakandan warrior who will fight to protect my people and the new home they've given me. Thanos would grow a disappointed look and tell Erik that it's a pity, that his name will never be remembered. Erik would then look up to Thanos' army to take ground, but would contain his composure as Steve would get up too. The two would nod to each other and begin to walk towards Thanos' army with the weight of the world on their shoulders, until they both hear familiar voices. The battle isn't over yet, cousin. Erik and Steve would then look over to see many portals appear, with Erik's eyes lighting up as he sees his cousin, T'Challa. Hordes of heroes would then begin to take the ground, with Wakanda joining the battle, the Guardians of the Galaxy joining the battle, and the main Avengers taking the battle. Steve and Erik would look in amazement, with Steve then calling back Mjolnir and shouting, "Assemble." All of the heroes would then charge forward towards Thanos' army and clash. Erik would slash through many soldiers and outriders, and would then see a purple kinetic wave and would rush over to it to see his cousin. The two would then smirk at each other, with T'Challa saying that they have work to do. The two would then look towards the armies and begin an assault, which knocks away many enemies. They would then hear Clint say that he has the gauntlet and that they need to get it to the past before Thanos gets to them. T'Challa and Erik then get to the gauntlet and make their way through the armies until Erik pushes T'Challa away as he gets hit by Thanos' blade. Erik tells T'Challa to go as he opens up his claws until Wanda Maximoff arrives and tells Erik to stay out of her way. Erik then rushes off and sees T'Challa being caught by Ebony Maw, so he shouts to his cousin to pass it, and T'Challa throws it down. Erik then continues forward until he is zipped up by Spider-Man and onto Valkyrie's back. Killmonger would drop his mask, and Valkyrie would ask, "Have we met?" Erik would then look up and shout, "Watch out!" The Sanctuary 2 would then rain fire on the battlefield, where Erik and Peter would be shot off the horse. The two would then smack down and cover themselves as the blasts are being shot out, with Erik then seeing a large blast coming straight for them, and time begins to slow as it looks like it's all over, and Erik covers his sight until a larger light appears. Erik then opens his eyes to see Captain Marvel once again, and she would smirk, saying, "Long time no see? May I?" "Yeah, I don't want this shit anymore." With the aid of the other heroes, Captain Marvel makes her way to the time machine, but Thanos would destroy it before she could enter it. The gauntlet would then go flying away, where it would land between Tony and Thanos. The two would rush towards it, where Tony would grab it first, but Thanos would hit him away. Erik would come in with a double kick to Thanos' face as Captain Marvel hits him in the leg. Erik would go in for another attack as Danvers would reach out for the gauntlet, but it would result with Danvers being thrown into Erik. Thor would jump in, slashing at Thanos, with Cap then pinning Thanos between Stormbreaker and Mjolnir. Thanos would shake the two off and Cap out and reach back for the gauntlet, but Danvers would swoop back in and grab onto it and begin to crush Thanos' hand. Thanos would be getting crushed by Carol until he forces the Power Stone out of the gauntlet and uses its power to punch away Carol. Erik would then look up in exhaustion to see Thanos preparing to snap and would get up and rush towards Thanos, but would be stopped by Tony. "It can't be you, kid." Erik would look on in confusion until he would see Tony go for Thanos. Erik would then understand what Tony meant, as he would see Tony with all 6 Infinity Stones in hand. Erik would then look on as Thanos' army would then begin to deteriorate. Erik would then watch as Thanos would fade away and he would rush over to Tony, who would be falling fast. T'Challa would then go over to him, with him seeing Erik placing a Kimoyo bead on Tony's neck. He would then walk over and place his hand onto his cousin, telling him without a word, let him rest. Erik would then get up on his feet and tells Tony thank you. The remaining Avengers would arrive to see the light go out from Tony Stark, and all kneel in respect. Time passes on with everyone together at Tony's funeral. When heading back to Wakanda, Erik would ask T'Challa something. Why wasn't I able to save him? Sometimes we forget death is a natural part of life, and Tony deserved the peace he had fought for. The two continue walking, where Erik remarks to T'Challa, "You know what? Sometimes you're too noble." T'Challa then laughs and pats his cousin on the shoulder as the two walk to a Wakandan ship. They board the ship with the AI asking, "Where to?" Erik would say home, Wakanda. On New Asgard, Thor would be looking down towards his people and his land, and Valkyrie would walk up to him, asking what he will do now. Thor would then smirk as he would watch the Guardian ship go into space. "I thought you would go with them." "It would be nice and very fun, but as king I've been neglecting my people. Before I go back out there, I need to be here with my people. This time I'll be a proper king, and you'll be by my side." Valkyrie would nod as the two would walk down towards New Asgard. In Wakanda, Erik would be alongside T'Challa as they would watch the world celebrate their second chance. Erik would look back towards the scar and smirk as he would walk towards his family with them accepting him. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. I wanted to give you guys a nice little holiday treat. Honestly, I wanted to get it out to you guys on the 23rd, but, holidays are meant to be with the family, and I'm actually recording all of this at 1 a.m. So, it's been very, very fun. I really hope you guys have enjoyed. I've put so much hard work into this and just so much passion into it. This is one of my most favorite stories out there, and it doesn't stop here at ENDGAME. Phase 4, as interesting of a roller coaster it was, has Wakanda Forever. And that means Killmonger's story isn't over just yet. But, just like last part, this next part is going to take a while. And I just wanted to bring this out to you guys, just like I said, for a nice little holiday treat. Now, if you guys are a fan of Marvel, MCU, What Ifs, or anything I create, make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe, as it encourages me to create more content like this. And if this video gets enough attention, I might come in with a new What If for the MCU. But like every MCU What If, except for like the Eternals one, it's going to take a little bit of time. So give me that time, and I'll try to make some great content for you guys. Other than that, I still have one more thing for you guys on Christmas, but you will only know what it is when Christmas hits. So if I don't, which I will, actually scratch that. Just what's today? Merry Christmas Eve. Make sure you guys are spending time with your family and that you always show that you're appreciative of your family, because that's all you really got in this life. And if you don't have family, reach out to your family. You know, the holidays are for you to be with your special ones. With that all the way, thank you guys so much for watching the video, and until next time, later.